The Carolina Panthers were back in action today for day 3 of training camp, or back together Saturday, like the NFL likes to call it. I'm JJ. This is Move the Chains. Let's get right into it. Before we discuss practice today, the Carolina Panthers did make a couple transactions on the day off, so I just want to update you guys on those real quick, just so we're on the same page, just so everybody's in tune with what's going on. So, a couple of the additions, they signed tight end Felipe Franks, cornerback Keandre Thomas, as well as wide receiver Devin Carter. In addition, one of the edge rushers that they brought in, talked about it last video, about needing help. I showed you guys the video of some of the edge rushers coming in and working out pretty much midway through practice. But the Carolina Panthers also did sign Kemoko Turay, second round pick, 12 career sacks. I want to say 3 career games started. So when you look at that, really just a role player, so to speak, not really going to be a guy that's going to come in and just absolutely take over a game. However, the help that we needed in the edge room, we got a little bit of it. I'm not going to say, things are done. This move completes everything. But this is a good move, in my opinion. It gives you that depth. It adds more pieces. And right now, that's what we need in that edge room. So that move was completed as well. Just to touch on some injury stuff, Tommy Tremble once again was down today, and actually just got the notification from David Newton, beat writer for the Carolina Panthers. I believe he's with ESPN, but it has been confirmed that Tommy Tremble is being shut down for a little while. Not sure what a little while entails, but what I do know is this is going to be a good opportunity for Johnathan Sanders to kind of boost his name up a little bit in that depth chart. Up until this point in camp, Johnathan Sanders has been behind Tommy Tremble, Stephen Sullivan, Ian Thomas, and then Johnathan Sanders has been there at TE4. With us seeing Sullivan go down Thursday during practice, with Tommy Tremble now being confirmed to be shut down, this is going to be a prime opportunity for JT Sanders to make an impact on that offense and to potentially boost his name kind of higher on that depth chart, because up until this point, that's just simply something that we have not seen. Other than that, things were very, very clean today from an injury standpoint. That's always good news. Not 100% sure if Jordan Fuller was back. That was the guy that was actually out of practice that I didn't cover last episode because I got the information too late and I really just wasn't in the presence of mind to take that information in while I was there. Jordan Fuller was out, and I'm not sure if he practiced today or not. What I do know is he didn't make any plays, so if he was there, it was a very quiet day for him. But I will say I'm relatively happy with the way things have been going from an injury standpoint. Another quick thing to touch on, we talked about on day 1 of training camp, Popo Amave injured his Achilles. The Carolina Panthers unfortunately did release him to make room for some of those moves that we talked about earlier with the guys they brought in yesterday out of free agency. Now, getting right into practice, just to give you guys a quick overview. A lot of things have been said. I'm sure you guys are on X, you're seeing all of the different perspectives or whatever the case may be. So I'm just giving my perspective. Everything I say is subjective, it's just my opinion. Things started off slow offensively, but I will say they did turn around. We'll talk about that a little bit later, and just Bryce Young and his ability to remain poised with the start that they got off to. Defense started off relatively well. Then it was kind of back and forth battle, back and forth, tit for tat. To me, offense did win the day. I will say that offense did win the day. It seemed as though defense was going to win back-to-back days, but unfortunately that didn't happen. We'll touch on that a little bit more in depth. So we'll get straight into our 3 takeaways. Our first takeaway, the receiver group was locked in. Boy, oh boy, the receiver group was locked in today. I mean, from everybody to Terrence Marshall Jr., Johnathan, Mingo, Xavier Leggett had a couple of good catches, Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, the list goes on and on and on. Huge day from the receiver group. I'll even throw Jalen Croker in there as well. Great day from him. Scored 2 touchdowns, 2 separate occasions, both in the red zone. So he's going to have another opportunity to continue to stack those days like the guys talk about and wanting to develop throughout training camp. I will touch on one of these receivers more specifically, and if you've been anywhere remotely close to Carolina Panthers content over the past 4 or 5 hours, I'd assume you know exactly which receiver I'm talking about. But if you don't, it's kind of like a cliffhanger for you there if you're not familiar with who I'm referencing. Our second takeaway, the defensive line continues to show strength. Now, this is something that we've talked about almost ad nauseum, just simply based on the fact that we've honed in specifically on edge rusher, needing to bring in more edge rushers, needing to add more depth, more pieces, simply based on the fact that we're under the belief that edge rusher will be a problem heading into the season. But I will say the defensive line so far up to this point in camp has been very, very good. They've been very, very good. You've had sacks, you've had TFLs, you've had runs that have only been able to go realistically for 1 or 2 yards. The defensive line has been solid. I honed in on the front seven as a whole 2 practices ago. Today, it was the D-line. The D-line did their job. They continued to get after the Bryce Young and all of the quarterbacks. There was a sack or 2 that was made throughout team drills. So far, very impressed with the D-line. I will say I understand. Life is all about perspective. I understand the fact that offensive line, a big part of their job is getting on the inside of guys' pads. So I know with them not having pads on, that does play a role. That is contributing to potentially some of the success that we're seeing with the defensive line. However, I still believe you still have to work your hands as a defensive lineman. You still have to be able to get off the ball to have the ability to make these plays. And right now, that's what we're seeing. Now, we will have a clearer understanding kind of on what the defensive line will look like when the pads go on Tuesday. But for right now, the defensive line looks solid. I do expect us to bring in at least 1 more pass rusher just because I think you can never have enough depth. But with the group that we currently have right now, they have been producing and they've been solid. They've been a good piece of the team. And our third takeaway is the poise that Bryce Young was able to show. Like I mentioned earlier, things got started very, very slow for the offense. Saw a couple of drop passes, saw a couple of routes via one-on-ones where receivers were strapped up. Bryce Young threw an early pick to Dane Jackson in first team session. So things were kind of going in mud a little bit for the offense. But the way they closed practice, the way they ended practice was really what stuck out to me. And it was led by Bryce Young, second-year quarterback, showing that poise and bouncing back because I'll say he started Pascal off. The first Pascal drill they ran kind of was the turning point of practice. First Pascal, he started off 1 of 4, then comes back out, goes 3 for 3 with 3 touchdowns. So that was something special to see. That was something good to see. And again, like I mentioned, I stated that offense won the day. It did not look like that was going to happen, and that'll kind of be another thing that we touch on from a defensive standpoint as we look at the good, the bad, the ugly. But shout out to Bryce Young. He showed immense poise. He showed that maturation that we know he has, and he showed the ability to calm his team down, calm the offense down when things were looking kind of iffy to start the day off, just in full transparency. So love to see that from him, because I think that right now, this time is very imperative for the mental reps, for the mental hurdles that you have to face, just as much as the production and the performance on the field. Now, to get to the good, the bad, the ugly. The good, hands down, by far, Johnathan Mingo. Johnathan Mingo, I would be willing to bet money. If you ask anybody that was in attendance for this specific practice today, they will tell you that Johnathan Mingo was by far the best player on the field for the Carolina Panthers. Offense, defense, special teams, etc. Johnathan Mingo was the best player on the field today by far. I want to say he had maybe 8 or 9 catches throughout Pascal, throughout team drills, was winning his one-on-one matchups. Obviously, he didn't win every single rep, but the better part of them he did win, making catches. And like I spoke about, with Bryce Young showing that poise, in my opinion, I believe that Johnathan Mingo played a significant role in that, because I want to say the last 2 or 3 sessions, Johnathan Mingo had about 3 or 4 catches that were just, 6, 7, 8 yard out routes, slant routes, etc. But we know Dave Canales has been vocal about Bryce Young getting the ball out quick, and Johnathan Mingo provided Bryce Young with the opportunity by winning quickly and by getting the ball in his hands and securing the catch. Johnathan Mingo had a phenomenal day today. The receivers as a whole had a phenomenal day, in my opinion. And that is good news. That is phenomenal news when you look at it, just simply based on the fact that we know coming into this season, one of the issues we had was the fact that Bryce Young didn't have any real viable options last season to make him successful. And what I tell people about Johnathan Mingo when they talk to me personally is that though Bryce Young had the bad end of the stick last year as well, Johnathan Mingo should, in my opinion, be cut the same amount of leeway, just simply based on the fact that he was a rookie and he was tossed into a tough situation. The Carolina Panthers drafted Johnathan Mingo and immediately wanted him to be a huge impact guy. And unfortunately, the transition just didn't happen for Mingo that early. And so now he was kind of put in a position amongst the fan base of like, is this guy even going to make the roster? Today was a great opportunity to lay the groundwork and the foundation for what Johnathan Mingo can do throughout the rest of training camp, because Dave Canales even went on to mention him and Terrace Marshall, two guys who we've spoken about this video as well as last video, and seeing their development, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that'll play a big part into seeing Bryce Young develop, seeing him grow, and ultimately us seeing success as an offense. So the good is definitely Johnathan Mingo, hands down by far. The bad, now I did state that the offense did win the day. However, they started off very, very slow. That to me was a tad bit alarming. It was good to see them be able to get locked back in and turn things around. However, it was alarming at how bad it was at the very, very start. Like I mentioned before, Bryce Young had a lot of incompletions. There were a lot of 50-50 balls that the receivers just simply weren't able to win on. Bryce also had that early interception to cornerback Dane Jackson. So it was a lot of things kind of compiling. And I just have to think towards the future and just, the regular season. Obviously, we're very, very far away from that. But I could see where you get on the field and you go 2, 3, 4, 3 and outs in a row, how that can compound when you're going up against an offense like a Kansas City Chiefs, like a Dallas Cowboys, like a Cincinnati Bengals, all teams that we play this season, and how that could easily put you in anywhere between a 13 to a 21 point hole. And that's something that we don't want to do this season. We saw that happen a couple of times last year where we were just completely out of the game in the second quarter. So it's definitely going to be big for the offense to turn that around and try throughout training camp to start a little bit quicker, try and get some of that cohesion earlier on in the day, so then you don't have to dig yourself out of the hole like they did today against the defense. Off of that, to me, the ugly was the letdown of the defense. I sang the defense's praises on Thursday because to me they absolutely dominated the day. Today it was, again, tit for tat, back and forth. But to me, the defense didn't finish the way they should have finished. After having a phenomenal day on Thursday, had the ability to have one of those stacked days today. They started off great, but slowly but surely, the pass rush slowed up a little bit. Slowly but surely, the cornerback started giving up larger chunk plays here and there, giving up touchdowns, etc. So there was kind of a bad feeling that I got just from the way defense closed out and the fact that they played at such a high level on Thursday, and then you came out today on Saturday and you just simply weren't able to reciprocate that energy. That to me was the ugly for today. Nothing that I'm going to overreact to, however, just a little frustrating as a fan of defense to see us have an opportunity to build and grow off of that and not really grab the opportunity by the horns like I know we could have. For my kicker guys, for my guys that are tuned in to hear about the kicking battle, I'm fully invested in the battle. I know a couple of my buddies are fully invested in the battle as well. Thicker the kicker, Mevis, was the one to kick today during live. And I have some bad news for any Mevis fan out there like myself. He did miss 2 live field goals today. I'm not sure if he went 3 or 5 or 2 for 4. I was looking down, recording, trying to get the content out for you guys to see on the Twitter. So I'm not sure the number, but what I do know for a fact is that he did in fact miss 2 field goals today. So kind of disappointing, kind of unfortunate on that front. But he's not cut as of 2:19 p.m. on Saturday. He is not cut. So another opportunity to do what he needs to do on Monday, but that was kind of disappointing to see if you're a Mevis fan like myself. And before we leave, make sure to go follow the Twitter page right now. Go follow the X page right now at FPFO_podcast. I'll make sure to put it in the description so you guys have easier access. But all throughout camp, we're giving you guys top tier insight, top tier videos. It feels like you're at camp, even if you're not at camp. That's just what I told. I'm not trying to stroke my ego or nothing, but that's what I've been told. So we're going to continue to put the clips out. We're going to continue to release these videos. So make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn the bell notification on, and tap in with us. Make sure you lock in. We will be back on Monday for training camp day 4. Until then, I will talk to you guys very soon. Peace.